Hello, everybody. I'm still Harvey Silverman, and welcome to a new episode of NGCOA Golf Business Live Tech Talks. This is our second of the year. The first we did live at the PGA show at the clubhouse stage in January. And we've got a new subject that is really quite fascinating. And we were quite lucky to find them. They were actually just down the aisle from the NGCOA booth at the PGA show. And intrigued us because it's something that we hadn't seen before at the show. Certainly something that is unique and potentially hugely beneficial for golf course operations, especially dealing with the new breed of golf cars with lithium-ion batteries. So I'd like to introduce everybody to Mr. Joe Benz. He's the CEO of a company called Witricity, Witricity. And Joe, welcome to Tech Talks.
Thanks, Harvey. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. First, as I was saying, you were just down the aisle from us, and what caught our eye as we were walking down there was this incredible Lamborghini golf car. Harry, can you pull that up? There I am. That's the closest I'll ever come to driving a Lamborghini of any type. But this is a Lamborghini golf car that you had in your booth, and we assume was there as a demonstration of the possibilities that Witricity presents in wireless charging. Is that correct?
No, that's exactly right. We're very fortunate to have partnerships with several OEMs, one of which being Tonino Lamborghini, who is just getting into the golf car business and will be bringing carts into the U.S. later on this year. But really excited about not only that partnership, but the partnerships we have with the other OEMs as well.
Yeah, I have actually a Lamborghini dealership about a mile from where I live. I'm in Northern California in Silicon Valley, and love to take that picture over there and say, hey, are you guys going to be selling these too? So let's see. So, Joe, looking at your website is witricity.com. There's a fascinating story about the technology that you have that was developed at MIT, and the explanation of a term called resonance, RESONANCE. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it relates to the technology that you've developed?
Yeah, so wireless charging or inductive charging back in 2007, when the guys at MIT were working on this, was really not anything new. What was new was their desire to be able to pass that power over an air gap. So when you think about traditional inductive charging, whether it's a cell phone or a toothbrush, or even some of these robots that do the cleaning in your home, there's always a point of contact where those touch. And they said there's got to be a way to do this without having to touch so that we can use it for more applications. And so what they were able to discover was that using magnetic resonance, and it's somewhat similar to MRI technology, but not exactly the same. But by using magnetic resonance, we pass power through a coil of Litz wire that's backed by a ferrite material, which is the magnetic material. And then by resonating a transmitter and a receiver and tuning them at the same frequency, you can actually pass power over a gap. With the system that we use for golf cars, it's a 6 to 8 inch gap at this point right now, without any loss of efficiency beyond what you get when you convert the power using a wired system. So our system is every bit as efficient as a wired system, in some cases more efficient, every bit as safe, every bit as efficient as a wired system. And that's what the guys at MIT came up with all the way back in 2007. We've been working on the technology ever since, refining it. We've used it for all kinds of different applications, everything from medical devices. So, think about an implanted pacemaker, to hearing aids, to computers, mouse, the computer mouse, scooters, golf cars, passenger cars, light trucks, heavy duty trucks, and transit buses. And so the gamut of vehicles that we can charge using the wireless charging goes all the way from, like I said, a scooter all the way up to a heavy duty truck.
That's interesting. So then why have golf courses or golf course fleets or cars become a focus for you now?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, we felt the demand or heard the demand from the public and from the consumer. As you might imagine, under the current geopolitical constraints or environment, the adoption of battery electric vehicles themselves has slowed slightly, and so we were looking for another channel to get into, and had some demand here. And the more we got into it, the more demand we had. We started with a 900 watt product, which was initially going to be focused on fleets that needed a little bit faster charging time. And then, as you may have seen at the PGA show, we introduced a 600 watt this year, which is, the tagline there is it's 2/3 the power of the 900, but it's half the price. And so, the new technology, when it first comes out, like any new technologies, a little bit more expensive, but it was focused on the fleet operators. Certainly an individual could buy that product if they want the faster charging. But we now offer two products, one for fleets and faster charging, and one that's a little bit slower, but not by all that much, and is much more affordable for the consumer. And so we saw a need. We've learned a lot over the last couple of years as far as what that need really is. So initially you solve a convenience problem, and the convenience problem is you don't have to plug in. If your cart is equipped with a receiver and you have the ground pad, you pull over the pad and everything else is automatic. There's no human intervention. And so you don't have to worry about bending down to grab the cable and plug it in, or you don't have to worry about someone having damaged your cable or your connector. And most importantly, you don't have to worry about, human error of forgetting to plug the cart in. As long as you've parked the cart where you want to park, where you normally park the cart, it's charging. And so, we started out as a convenience product. What we've learned is that the wireless charging has many more advantages. Opportunity charging, as opposed to run the battery down, charge it up, run the battery down, charge it up. If you're opportunity charging every time you park over a pad, it's better for the battery. We've had some studies with lithium ion batteries where you get 50% more life out of the battery. So again, another advantage. It's safer. We are integrated with the battery OEMs, with the battery management systems, and just now starting to get into more and more complex algorithms with AI, being able to predict maintenance cycles, being able to predict the possibility of a fire. And so, we've talked to insurance companies who are hesitant right now to insure cart barns with lithium ion batteries. And they have said this could be a game changer in their eyes. They want to see a little bit more data from us. And like I said, it's something that we've just in the last 6 months gotten into, and it takes a little bit of time to gather enough data to make the insurance companies happy. But the results so far are telling us, not only is it better for the chemistry of the battery to do this, what we call opportunity charging, but then using those AI algorithms and doing predictive maintenance and shutting it off if it appears that there might be something going on with the chemistry that would, potentially lead to a hazardous event. All of those things are additional advantages to the system.
So is it only lithium ion batteries that you can charge, or can you do that with lead acid as well?
We can do it with lead acid, lithium ion, and even solid state. So there's some new solid state technology coming out, probably too expensive right now to be integrated into golf carts. But it's what they're looking for in passenger cars. But we're compatible with all three chemistries.
It's interesting because we visited a major resort at the Golf Business Conference prior to the PGA show, which had just brought in a whole new fleet, huge fleet, it's a big resort of lithium-ion powered cars, and the insurance company said, "Hey, those are nice, but can't put them in the cart barn. We're not going to insure you."
Yeah,
it's that threat of fire. We've seen that happening on airplanes. You can't pack a lithium-ion device in your checked luggage. You can only have it with you on the plane. But even then, there's been incidents where smoke has started coming from the rack up above. So there has been issues. And again, this resort was rather shocked to find out that they had to be parking all their cars outside because of the lithium-ion threat. So what you're saying, or what you just talked about, was how you're working with the insurance companies to help alleviate that.
That's what we're doing. And again, it was something that at the PGA show, quite frankly, became an issue, and we heard from more and more developers and designers and owners and those sort of things that they were running into trouble with insurance. And I started talking to our insurance brokers and trying to investigate what the problem was and what they thought the concern was. And we saw it too. Another large operator of carts just switched their cars back to lead acid from lithium ion. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's the same one you talked to. This one happens to be down here in Florida where we are. But it was a large fleet, and they switched back because they didn't, again, they couldn't insure the cart. So we're working on that solution. To date, again, the results are extremely positive. My chief scientist, Dr. Morris Kiesler, is working on tests and reports and trying to meet the needs of the insurance community to see what they'll need in order to sign off on it or put some sort of stamp of approval on it. We do follow all the UL safety standards. The FCC has approved our product. We've done, from a safety standpoint, setting aside the fire for a minute, one of the questions that we get asked all the time is it safe? We've done testing, extensive testing. We've been working on this technology since 2007. But it's actually the emission coming off of even our light truck and passenger car system, which is 11 kilowatts. So compare that to 600 watts. At 11 kilowatts, we actually have less emissions than you get from an inductive cooktop stove. So it's more dangerous to make your dinner than it is to use our product, which we found fascinating. And then we've been with, all of the OEMs on the passenger car side who have crawled all over the vehicle, in, around, under, trying to find something, particularly in Europe, where they're very concerned about EMC and emissions coming out of electronic products, and they have not found anything. A couple of the golf car OEMs, the bigger ones, have done extensive testing with the product in all types of environment. The product is IP65 rated, which means it's one of the highest ratings for water tightness. It has no moving parts. I can't tell you that it is 100% maintenance free, but it's as close as you can get when you have a product that has electronics in it, right? Sure. So I'm not going to tell anybody that a chip is never going to go bad or a capacitor is never going to go bad in our product, but it's designed for thousands of charging cycles in all types of environments, everything from freezing cold to 125 degree Fahrenheit temperature, that's how it's designed. It's an extremely robust system.
So you probably know by now, a lot of facilities have mixed fleets. Maybe some newer cars with older cars. Maybe some now that have lead acid, but newer cars with lithium ion. How would you handle retrofits like that with different battery types? And certainly, if they have gas, Lord, please get rid of the gas. And I've told people I will never play at a golf course that has gas carts. Yeah. Not because it's an environmental thing, it's because they smell so bad.
Right.
And
Yeah, no, obviously my recommendation is, convert from gas to electric and go to wireless while you do it. As I mentioned at the outset, we do a lot with firmware and software and profiles in the system so that it's compatible across, different battery types. And so we would, depending upon what the fleet had, the mix of carts in the fleet, we would load the equipment with those profiles and then interact with the BMS. And obviously, in the case of some of the older carts, there is no BMS, so we interact directly with the battery. In those cases, we don't have some of the robustness in the features, the diagnostic features, and those sort of things. But where there is a BMS, it's simply a matter of writing a profile or multiple profiles, so that as long as the cart is equipped with a receiver and pulls over a pad, it works seamlessly to the operator.
Sure. So kind of lay out a picture for us of what your system would look like installed in a cart barn that has, maybe a 80 cart fleet.
Yeah. So we're working on a couple of different options as far as how that'll actually end up looking in the cart barn. The beauty of the system is it's designed to be plugged into a standard outlet. So for the consumer at the home or where you're putting one or two of these in, you simply plug it into an outlet and it works. As we go and design the cart barns, there are several different options. If the cart barn hasn't been built yet, there's the option to build the coil and the magnetics into the concrete and make the floor more of a charging floor than a charging pad. Mm-hmm. If we do the standard configuration with the pads, we're working on building it into mats. And so you would, if you think about the interlocking mats that people use for their home gyms, we're working on a solution where the coils are integrated into that, and then the power runs out to the power source. There's an option where we create a channel, and as long as you put the driver's side front tire in the channel and pull down the channel and park the cart's nose to tail, they'll be parked over a pad. So there's numerous configurations, and what we're trying to do is create an environment where again, we're not disrupting operations. We want it to be as similar to the way you do things now. And again, so if you imagine parking these carts, 80 carts in a barn, and you're parking them nose to tail, we will configure the system so that you're parked over the appropriate coil to charge the cart. We do have tolerance in the X and Y direction. We also have some tolerance in the Z direction. Mm-hmm. And so, as we go into this, what we're doing is we're working with cart barn designers to figure out what works best for them. The system itself allows us to do that because it is so simple. And I don't mean that the way it sounds. It's simple in its final configuration. Not necessarily simple to design and build, but once it's built, it's relatively simple. It's a pad and a receiver and a wiring harness that connects into the battery and the BMS, and that's all there is. So we can be extremely flexible. We've filed numerous patent applications now on the cart barn configurations, and it really is up to the designer of the barn, or if we are doing a retrofit in a barn, exactly what they want and how they want to configure it and how they want to park their carts.
So you mentioned before that you're working with OEMs because there has to be a device installed underneath the car floor, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So is that something that can be done on a retrofit basis, or is that something that has to come already installed and assuming that it's warranty approved from the car manufacturer?
Yeah. Well, so at the end of the day, our dream is to have every cart that is made have a wireless charging receiver on it, right? Mm-hmm. That's the end goal. Retrofits are easy. It takes about 20 minutes, depending upon the OEM and the bracket and the frame and how the frame is configured. Most OEMs, that have tested, any OEM that has tested it has not found any issues with it. We have not. I will not claim that we've been to every single OEM. You cannot de facto void the warranty on the cart just because you put an electric charger on it. I happen to also be a recovering lawyer and spent a lot of time at Ford and Boeing. And at Ford in particular, we ran into a law called Magnuson-Moss. And what it says is OEMs, and whether that's on a car or a golf cart or an airplane, cannot de facto void the warranty because someone puts an aftermarket part on. The OEM has to prove that the aftermarket part was the cause of what led to the failure. So our preferred methodology is to work with the OEMs and to get them to approve it. We have publicly announced Tomberlin, TSV, Kinetic Green, which is Tonino Lamborghini. We've done work with Icon, and we're starting to do more and more of the OEMs every day. And then battery manufacturers. We work with Eco extensively on different solutions, and are now working. Have arrangements and agreements with many more of the battery manufacturers. Again, we want the system to all work together. The other question we get asked is, okay, so what if I've got a cart and I'm not somewhere where there's a pad? Can I not charge it anymore? And the answer to that is no. You can work off of either wired or wireless charging. And so far there hasn't been an OEM that has said, okay, we're going to put wireless into the cart and then tear out the ability to do wired charging, which, again, we find that on the automobile side too.
Sure.
You're not going to want to do one to the exclusion of the other, but like I said, it's a huge advantage on the convenience side at this power level. We've found these other advantages as far as life of the battery, decreased risk of fire, and those sort of things. When you start thinking about automobiles, the advantages become much, much greater because the system is bidirectional. And so, what we've found in trials, particularly in Europe, is people will wirelessly charge their vehicle overnight when the price of electric is cheap. They'll sell it back during peak periods. And not only are they paying for their electric bill, they're actually making their car payment using just that difference between buy low and sell high with a passenger vehicle. Now, the batteries aren't big enough in a golf cart to do the same thing. But again, our hope is that people love it so much on the golf car side that when they get their electric car, they demand to have wireless charging.
So when you're sitting down with a golf course operator and you're talking about possibly the installation, how do you frame the return on investment? Does it doesn't include labor savings, fewer dead batteries, longer battery life, power bill savings? How do you frame that ROI when you're sitting down with a course operator that might have a fleet of 60 or 80 carts?
Yeah, again, I think all of those things are accurate. I mean, obviously, right now, the biggest concern on most people's mind is the insurance, and can we even insure the carts with the lithium-ion batteries? And there, we probably would need a whole nother podcast to talk about the advantages of lithium-ion over lead acid, and you've probably already done that. So you've got all of those advantages. Yes, you have labor savings. Yes, you have power savings because you can control when the charging takes place. I know not every area in the country right now charges different rates at different times. That's where we're going. There's no doubt in my mind that as we have more and more adoption of electric vehicles, and right now more and more installation of AI data centers, the utility companies are going to go back to the old days, where high usage areas are already, where you charge a lesser rate for charging in the middle of the night as opposed to charging during the day. So, there's that. There's, the biggest expense of owning a wired system typically after the installation becomes cables and connectors. We don't have cables and connectors, so you don't have to worry about connectors wearing out. You don't have to worry about did the connector get plugged all the way in. So I don't know what percentage of your fleet can't be used every day because either someone forgot to plug it in, or they didn't get it plugged in all the way, or there was a failure with the connection. All of those things lead to the ultimate lower total cost of ownership at the end of the day.
Very good. So as you're looking at this 5 years down the road, let's say, what does a fully electrified golf course operation look like to you? I mean, not just the golf cars, but the maintenance vehicles, maybe autonomous equipment, which is becoming coming into the industry rather quickly. And if all of this is enabled by wireless charging, what does this look like 5 years down the road?
Yeah, it's a whole ecosystem that doesn't have wires. Everything you just mentioned charges wirelessly. It's the autonomous equipment on the course. It's the carts. It's the cart barn. It's if you're driving your own personal cart to the course and then using the course's carts, you can charge your cart wirelessly in the parking lot. It's the whole ecosystem eliminates wires. I mean, we've seen it in every industry. I happen to be old enough to remember having to get up off the couch and change the channel on the television. Sure. But probably the good golfers today have never had that experience. The younger golfers certainly haven't ever had the experience where they had to change the channel on the TV. And same thing with phones and everything that's going wireless. So at the end of the day, I see this as a transition. When you talk about the whole golf course experience, even if you drive your electric vehicle to the course, I would see wireless charging pads in the parking lot so that you can charge your car while you're playing around with golf. Mm-hmm. So I think the whole ecosystem goes wireless. I don't see a future for us where we don't make the transition to wireless, as a community.
So from the golf car standpoint, you mentioned being able to maybe charge a car wirelessly, and there are a lot of golf courses now that have installed charging stations for EV vehicles. It's a great idea. It's a nice piece to be able to market as a differentiator with another course down the street. But with the golf cars, the golfer's not going to see this. He's not going to have any idea why car runs the way it does and is always charged. But if you have anybody now, or can you imagine in the future how this might become a marketing benefit for golf courses?
Well, again, you're right. Most of this charging does happen behind the scenes. If you've got carts that are doing multiple rounds and they're outside, they could be parked over the pad. If you've got some pads outside for recharging during the day, again, I think when you come to the club, if you're there, and again, it's a mixed bag out there. There are some courses where you drive the cart in your community, but you don't drive your own cart on the course. Mm-hmm. So charging your cart or your car at the golf course, I think there's opportunities there. But you're right. I mean, most of this is behind the scenes, and ultimately what is, depending upon what club you belong to and how they, it keeps costs down. Maybe it means no special assessment to replace the carts or the batteries early. I think there's multiple ways to do it. At the end of the day, I think it's a great technology that helps the operator out more so than being a marketing tool. But I'm sure there's ways we can figure out how to market it.
Okay, so last question, and this has been great, Joe. You've explained far more than Harry and I thought would be possible in just 30 minutes. But probably 95%, maybe even 99% of the golf course operators who'd be watching this have a fleet of one of three OEMs: Club Car, E-Z-GO, and Yamaha. Those are the three major fleet providers in the country right now. I know there's some coming from China and other parts of the world, but those are the three major ones right now. Have you made any progress with any of those three OEMs?
Yep, we have. We've the first OEM that we worked with and did the most and the most testing, and that we have a very strong relationship with is E-Z-GO. We've worked with both Yamaha and Club Car. We're working with their battery suppliers right now to make sure that the integration with the battery and the BMS, that part normally comes first. And we're finishing up some trials with those battery manufacturers and BMS suppliers right now, and look forward in the very, very near future to being able to announce deals with both Yamaha and Club Car.
Great. So if an operator is looking at retrofitting his cart barn, maybe with the new fleet, or building a new one, and certainly I would think with the money being poured into private clubs, as well as new destination resorts, you've got to be right there at the front of the line saying, hey, look, we've got something much better than what you're typically been using to charge carts. And here it is, and here's how we can integrate that. That to me would be your low-hanging fruit. Is that where you're at right now and how you're marketing Witricity?
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting in early in the design process, replacing the outdated designs and coming up with a new design to make sure that you can leverage the advantages of the wireless charging. And so whether it's a new construction or retrofit, we can service both markets, both communities, and we can make it worth their while to do so.
Have you opened up a retail outlet in the villages where everybody's got their own car? And
we have not opened a retail outlet yet, but I don't think that it's too far behind. Again, this is very simple to use at home. Once you do the 20-minute installation of the receiver on the cart, you unpackage the ground pad, you lay it on the driveway or in the garage, and you plug it into a wall outlet, and that's it. That's the whole installation process.
Just a regular 110 wall outlet.
A regular 110 wall outlet. Our guidance and our preference is to have it on a dedicated 15 amp circuit. But even if you don't have that, you plug it into a regular 110 outlet and it works.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, so Joe,
no electrician like you have to have for your EV when you have to have them come and wired into your box. Right. If you can plug a lamp into an outlet, you can plug in a wireless charger.
Wow, that's very cool. Joe, this has been terrific. Any last words for us?
Well, I appreciate the time. I love this community. I love being part of this community here. When I became CEO, I never thought I'd get to join work with one of my passions, which is actually playing golf. But it's worked out great for us, and we're excited to introduce this technology to the community and get more widespread adoption. We think it's good for the course, it's good for the players, it's good for the members, and we're just really excited to get the technology out there.
Well, terrific. Maybe we can get you at the next Golf Business Conference next year in January, which dovetails with the PGA show, and you can meet some of these owners.
Would love to. It'd be an honor.
That would make a lot of sense, and I think we have more and more owners now, especially younger owners, who are looking more at efficiencies like this and differences of how golf course operators can move into the future rather than the legacy operations, which are becoming very outdated. Joe Benz from Witricity, everybody. The website is www.witricity.com. Take a look. It's a fascinating story of how all this started. You've been around since 2009, so it's not like you're a brand new company. You've been working on this for what now, 18 years, 19 years?
A good while.
Yeah, a good while. And we hope this is successful, especially in the golf industry, because we need this type of technology to improve operations and move along faster with lithium ion, which we know is a superior battery to lead acid for a number of reasons. So this is great, Joe. Thank you very much for the time. We'll get this out to everybody very soon, and appreciate it. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Harvey. I appreciate it.